Remember the PSP? What if I told you that one of its 20-year-old games actually perfected racing on the go? A game that even today feels fast, stylish, and downright timeless. I'm talking about WipEout Pure, a futuristic masterpiece that didn't just set the tone for the PSP's early years, but became the gold standard for what handheld racing games could be. So buckle up, or better yet, strap yourself into the anti-gravity cockpit, and be sure to watch until the end to experience what it's really like in the game's infamous zone mode, relentlessly hurtling forward through constant acceleration into untold dimensions of intensity and speed. But more on that in a bit. Join me to jump into the game that brought pure speed and pure style into the palms of your hands. This is WipEout Pure. First things first, put away your overpriced Nintendo Switch 2 or your fancy pants Steam Deck. Because when the PSP first launched in 2005, it was a hardcore flex by Sony. Handheld gaming had long been Nintendo's turf, but Sony came out swinging with a system that basically said, hey, you like your Game Boy? Isn't that fancy? Now watch us put a PlayStation 2 in the palm of your hand. And for a time, that's exactly what it felt like. The PSP wasn't just a toy, it was sleek, multimedia ready, and packed with technical prowess that handhelds had never seen. This thing could play hundreds of different full-length movies on Sony's proprietary UMD's media format. You know, those unique little mini-me DVDs in a round plastic shell. Oh, so cute. It also featured MP3 music playback capability and even had online web browsing. It was more like a Swiss Army knife of entertainment, and it offered all of this a full 2 years before Apple released their first iPhone. Wow. But what really made people sit up and pay attention was the idea of console-quality gaming on the go. No more watered-down spin-offs. No more good-for-handheld excuses. Sony promised the real deal, and in its launch lineup, one game stood out as the perfect showcase for what the PSP was all about: WipEout Pure. The sixth installment of the WipEout series, following WipEout Fusion in 2002, the game takes place in the year 2197, exactly 100 years after the events of WipEout 2097, and revolves around players competing in the FX300 Anti-Gravity Racing League. The WipEout series had already made its mark on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. It was fast, futuristic, and stylish, a racing game that had as much personality as it had raw speed. But by the time WipEout Fusion hit the PS2, the series had drifted a little. It experimented with upgrades, heavier combat mechanics, and design changes that, while fun, felt like it was losing touch with what made WipEout truly unique. Fans wanted the purity back, the razor-sharp focus of momentum and precision. And when Studio Liverpool got the chance to make a flagship racing game for Sony's shiny new PSP, they delivered exactly that. They stripped WipEout back to its essence, polished it up, and in doing so, gave the handheld its defining racing experience. WipEout Pure is exactly what the title suggests. Pure speed, pure style, pure WipEout. The first thing that hits you is its look. For a handheld game released in 2005, this thing looked impossibly good. Sleek, futuristic tracks twisting through industrial skylines, neon lights flashing across your visor, and anti-gravity ships that looked like concept art brought to life. It wasn't just about racing. It was about transporting you to a world where speed is beauty. The developers even brought back the Designers Republic, the legendary graphic design studio responsible for WipEout's iconic branding. Their return gave the game that unmistakable futuristic identity, bold colors, minimalistic fonts, and visual cues that made it feel like you were racing inside of an art installation that also happened to be trying to kill you at 700 kilometers per hour. This game even includes an online multiplayer mode, and was the first PSP title with downloadable content featuring new ships, tracks, and music. And oh, the speed. If you've never played WipEout Pure, let me try and describe it. Imagine sitting on a roller coaster, but instead of being strapped into the cart, you're balancing on top of it, standing on a dinner plate covered in butter. Now, give that roller coaster a few sharp turns, sprinkle in some laser fire, and crank the soundtrack up to 11. That's WipEout Pure. It wasn't just fast for the PSP, it was fast, period. The handheld's crisp screen made every race feel blistering, and yet the controls were tight enough to keep you from flying off in frustration. This wasn't just an arcade racing chaos. It was a perfectly tuned digital dance of precision. The soundtrack was the perfect partner to that dance. WipEout has always had a reputation for killer music, and Pure kept the tradition alive. It packed a lineup of electronic artists that perfectly matched the futuristic aesthetic. Pulsating beats, hypnotic rhythms, and tracks that made you feel like you weren't just racing, you were living inside the music. The audio design wasn't limited to the soundtrack either. Weapons had crunch, engines roared with a futuristic hum, and the announcer's crisp delivery made every power-up feel like a moment of drama. But here's the thing, WipEout Pure wasn't just about holding down the accelerator and hoping for the best. Oh no. This game had layers. Precision and strategy were baked into its DNA. If you've ever played WipEout, you know about air braking, the subtle art of tapping the shoulder buttons to carve through corners instead of plowing into a wall like a futuristic bumper car. Pure refined that mechanic to perfection. Then it added the brilliant new gameplay mechanic of the barrel roll boost. Sacrifice a chunk of your ship's energy, execute a roll mid-air, and land with a burst of speed. High risk, high reward. Combine that with a new side slip maneuver, double tapping the air brake to slide your ship just enough to nail those tight corners. And suddenly every track became a playground to show off your skill. You weren't just racing, you were performing. And of course the weapons added another layer of strategy. Mines, missiles, quakes. They could all turn the tide of a race, but unlike Mario Kart's cheerful chaos, WipEout's weapons hit like a sledgehammer. A well-placed rocket could slam your craft into a wall and steal precious seconds off your momentum. It could be frustrating, sure, but it also forced you to think on your feet. Do you use up that missile, or do you absorb it to restore your shields? Do you risk going wide to snag a power-up, or play it safe, keeping your racing line clean? Every choice mattered, and when you nailed a perfect lap, dodging attacks, hitting every boost pad, and carving through corners, it felt less like winning a race and more like mastering a symphony. So why does WipEout Pure still resonate today? Why in 2025 are people still talking about it? Still dusting off their PSPs or firing it up on emulators? Part of it's nostalgia, sure, but part of it is that WipEout Pure nailed something timeless. It found that sweet spot between old school challenge and modern smoothness. Compared to its siblings, it struck the balance just right. More refined than early Wipeouts, less bloated than WipEout Fusion, and more accessible than the punishing difficulty of some of the later entries in the franchise. It became the last great evolution of WipEout's momentum-based racing before the series shifted gears again. In its era, Pure stood tall against rivals too. Nintendo had F-Zero, sure, but that series was already fading into history by the mid-2000s. On consoles, racers like Burnout and Need for Speed were making waves, but none of them captured the futuristic thrill that WipEout delivered. Pure gave handheld gamers something unique, an experience that wasn't a compromise, but a full realization of what the PSP was capable of. And that's why it endures. It wasn't just a game, it was a proof of concept. The PSP could deliver the future. So what about revisiting WipEout Pure today? If you've still got a PSP, you're in for a treat. The game still looks and plays great on the original hardware, and with a few tweaks, like boosting the CPU clock speed, you can even squeeze out smoother performance. If you don't have the original UMD anymore, emulation is always an option, and honestly, seeing WipEout Pure running at higher resolutions on modern screens just reinforces how forward-thinking its design was. The purity still shines through.
Initiating Malvo.
Okay, if you're up for a challenge, here's something you've got to try, and my personal favorite part of the game. Zone Mode. This gameplay mode is so simple and just addictive. The goal here couldn't be more straightforward. Jump into your racer and see how long you can survive under the relentless pressure of an ever-increasing velocity. The speed ramps up until your reflexes can't keep up, and trust me, you'll be sweating by the end. Share your best zone scores with the community. You might be surprised how many people are still chasing those high numbers 2 decades later. But to show you how it really feels to experience how WipEout Pure zone mode can be, I present to you the 3 levels of zone mode enlightenment. As you begin at the noob level, your craft begins to move along with an easygoing and smooth pace. It's like taking a leisurely Sunday drive across town with the window rolled down, enjoying the breeze and the relaxing pace. As you take in the sights of the abstract geometric art throughout the track, you notice the intricacies of their design and start to develop a feel for the layout of the circuit ahead. You hear the robo-announcer call out Zone 5 as you glide around the track, as the action starts to speed up a bit, and you find yourself vibing to the pulse of the electronic beats that are powering you forward. And then, before you know it, you hear the announcer call out Zone 15
Zone 15.
as you enter the pro level. Your subconscious asks internally, what the hell just happened? You're now hurtling forward at an ever-increasing pace, rocketing ahead on a cushion of air as you scream around the corners, tapping your air brakes at exactly the right moment to perfectly arc through the apex of the turn. Your hands begin sweating a bit as you grasp the controller a bit harder, leaning in toward the screen to see the upcoming corners more clearly. Your focus is pure as the rising hum of the ship's engine sound, and as Zone 20 is called out, you're feeling powerful, with razor reflexes dialed in as you complete lap after lap. It's a meditative state that feels so natural and good, but that voice pops up in your head again, wondering how long you can last as things continue speeding up endlessly. You feel an icy chill run down your back as the announcer calls out Zone 30 as you rip through the boundaries of space-time into some kind of warped, fifth dimension of speed. You've now entered the final elite level, where the normal passage of time is distorted into some kind of relativistic movement through the ether. You're not even conscious of your hands on the controller anymore, and your eyes could be closed for all you know. Your mind has somehow detached from your body, as the course seems to be morphing around your ship, while you're holding your breath and sweating profusely. Every turn seems to be happening on its own, almost like you're watching a movie play out. As Zone 40 is called out, all you can see anymore is a non-stop blur of motion and light. And just then, your dog barks at something outside, distracting you for just an instant. Your conscious mind snaps back into your skull while you're burning up the track. Panic comes crashing down as you're thinking about the controls and mentally timing your turns. It doesn't work. You overcompensate, entering the corner too soon, ramming back into the opposite side wall as you feel the sharp needles of losing control. That beeping energy meter's drilling into your mind as you push harder trying to recover, and then you sigh as you let go, seeing your ship wink out of existence as it disintegrates into fiery pixels. My friends, this incredible feeling of just barely hanging on to control at beyond the very edge of your capability, and being able to do it at progressively higher zones, is one of the most pure gaming experiences out there, and is something for every gamer's bucket list. I remember being totally engrossed in the moment, in a state of total flow, powering through zone after zone of increasing speed. And even on my very best runs, I was only able to get up to zone 45 or maybe 50 once. Which makes it even more incredible when I now see people online running through zones with ease, getting up into the 80s and 90s. Jeez. In the end, WipEout Pure lives up to its name. It's pure in design, pure in execution, and pure in the way it captured the PSP's promise of console-quality gaming in your pocket. It wasn't weighed down by unnecessary gimmicks or overcomplicated systems. It was focused, polished, and so damn stylish. And that purity is why it remains not just one of the best PSP games, but one of the greatest handheld racing games of all time. So next time you pick up a PSP, or even just think back about it, remember that there was a game that defined what portable gaming could be. A game that turned your downtime during commutes, study breaks, and late-night play sessions into heart-pounding futuristic races. WipEout Pure wasn't just about speed, it was about vision. And in that sense, it remains one of my all-time favorite retro games on any console. Alright, my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.